everyone, to an exciting episode of BioLogic Science News. Throughout a number of scientific fields, everything from archaeology to biogeography, the status quo is being turned over with literally groundbreaking evidence. The paper in question was published to the journal Nature, and you can actually download the paper as a PDF file from Nature's website. Okay, so what is this all about, and what's the evidence? The discovery comes from an archaeological site near San Diego, California. The site was first discovered in 1992, and its findings have been the stuff of a paper 25 years in the making that could potentially rewrite our understanding of Homo sapien dispersal over the last 1,000 centuries. The traditional understanding is that humans crossed the Bering Land Bridge sometime within the last 20,000 years. The relatively high amount of ice left over from a diminishing ice age held a lot of water, and the sea level was lower. This lowered sea level exposed a land bridge between Alaska and the most eastern reaches of Siberia. Homo sapien groups slowly migrating northeast across Asia, they followed the coasts and the mountains and stuff, and this led them to the land bridge, and they crossed it into the North American continent. But the paper presents evidence that Homo sapiens existed in the Americas way, way before that. Around 130,000 years ago, plus or minus 9.4 thousand years. This vastly predates even the ancient Clovis people, who existed in the Americas around 12 or 13,000 years ago. The controversial claim is based on the evidence at the dig site, which includes rocks purportedly fashioned as tools and anvils, and mastodon bones with the telltale fracturing of human handling fresh after death. The authors of the paper expand on their claim, pointing out that the fracture patterns on the bone, called spiral fractures, are only possible when the bone tissue is, fresh, or shortly after death. Older bone is drier and more brittle, and it doesn't fracture the same way as fresh bone does when it's cut or smashed. To supplement this point, the bones were described as having been arranged in a deliberate fashion, or not in a way that appears to be the result of natural processes. The fracture patterns on the bone match those on the bones found in Eurasia that we know were the result of humans carving and smashing them with stone tools. The act of smashing the bone with a stone tool leaves telltale markings and evidence behind on the bone itself, like telltale scratches and patterns. But besides the mastodon bones, the site also had stones that appeared to be shaped for cutting, and others that looked like they were shaped to be hammers or smashing tools, as well as others that were like rudimentary anvils or smashing surfaces. The anvil stones showed evidence of being chipped and smashed by hammer stones, with several individual hammer strikes being visible, all of which is likely if they were used as a hard surface for smashing things on. The site even contained the rock flakes chipped off of the anvil rocks. These flakes could literally be morphologically matched and fitted back onto the anvil rocks, back right where they were broken off in the first place. So all of these mastodon bones and stone tools were uncovered in a site dated by diffusion absorption decay modeling to be around 130,000 years old. The sedimentary soil around the site was said to be undisturbed, suggesting that the mammoth remains and the stone tools weren't deliberately buried by the human creators or whoever created and used them. Instead, they were probably abandoned, and over time, layers of dust and sediment and stuff just covered them up. In all actuality, it seems unlikely that it would have been humans in the first place creating and using these stone tools. After all, modern humans emerged around 200,000 years ago in eastern Africa, and they only migrated out across Asia and Europe 60 to 80,000 years ago. And virtually all the genetic and archaeological evidence suggests that humans moved into the Americas around 20,000 years ago from Alaska, and they moved south into Mesoamerica and then South America. That evidence is pretty well established, and the evidence in the paper doesn't stand up against the evidence contradicting it. Because there's no other evidence of humans being around in the region at the time, this suggests that the tools were actually made by some other quasi-intelligent organism, like another species in the genus Homo. This is actually quite plausible, given that the genus Homo did split into numerous branches over the last few million years, like Homo erectus, Rhodensiensis, the Denisovans, and the Neanderthals. The Denisovans in particular diverged around 400,000 years ago, and they're known to have migrated out of Africa and east into Asia, into places like Malaysia and China and Mongolia. It's entirely possible that some groups of Denisovans continued moving east across the exposed land bridge into the Americas more than 100,000 years ago. If these mastodon bones were cut up by Denisovans using tools that they crafted themselves, it would be a satisfying twist on this controversial discovery. The science and research communities will have to continue analyzing the data, and they'll have to keep discussing, what it means and who could have made it before they can really come to a conclusion. Although it seems like the direction of the conversation is really going more and more in the direction that it was some hominid cousin, some other sentient organism in the genus Homo. Meanwhile, in the research world, a recent paper presented findings out of South Africa about the discovery of sharpened stone weapons, like rudimentary spear tips or daggers dated to 77,000 years ago, so around the time that early humans were moving out of Africa. Another paper from the Yukon province of Canada detailed caribou bones with supposedly human-made cut marks. Because the Yukon province is east of Alaska, it's pretty close to the Bering Land Bridge, it's entirely possible that the early people who first crossed the bridge were there. But this discovery suggests that they were there in the area around 24,000 years ago. Perhaps these human ancestors outcompeted the resident Denisovans to extinction as they migrated south across the broad landscapes of the American continents.